Hello, hello, and welcome to this episode of The Creative Pause. My name is Susan Padron, and I am here with my co-host, who I will allow to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. It's Stacey. Good to be with you today on The Creative Pause. We hope this moment, like all of our episodes, gives you a time of respite and connecting in with yourself and with this wider community that we're building here. So thanks for being with us. We're very excited today to have Michael with us to talk through some deeper questions with his card game, Actually Curious. And we'll get to that in a moment. But before we do, we always start with a question. Just to kind of invite ourselves to ground into this space and to start our, energy flowing and to start thinking about some of these things. So our question today is actually based on a question. So the question today is, what's the question you've been asking yourself most lately? So what's the question you've been asking yourself most lately? I'll answer that. Susan will answer it, and Michael will as well. And then we invite you at home to do the same. Write it down, say it aloud. Just see what's sort of sitting in your heart and in your body as you hear this. So the question that's been sitting within me a lot, particularly today, but I think it's been bubbling to the surface a lot lately, is the question of what is joy? So that's the question I'm sitting with a lot right now, asking myself in this space that we're navigating, which can sometimes be, many times be very stressful. And I have a newborn also, which is also stressful. Trying to really reconsider what is joy for me, what brings me joy on a day-to-day basis, and then in the overall trajectory of my business and my life and my partnership with my husband and all of the many things that are part of my life. So so that's a question I'm sitting with and looking at it in both big and small ways, whether it be, having flowers in my house as a small thing, or, again, what do I want to do with my business? Where do I want to take my jewelry as I move forward? I mean, I don't really have all the answers yet, but that's the question that I'm allowing to sit in my heart. So Susan, how about you? What's your question?
When we first discussed this, the question of the question, I had something come up for me, and then I had something else come up when, you were answering and responding, Stacey. So I'm going to share both, I think. I don't know if that's a cop-out, but whatever, I'm gonna allow it. So it's our show, we do what we want. Sorry for the temper tantrum. Okay, so the question that came up first for me is, where are you going? And obviously not in a literal sense, because we're not really going anywhere at the moment in terms of changing our physical locations. But where are you going in your life? Like, what direction do you want to go in? And just really taking that to reflect back on myself, on my business, on just who I am as an individual. And I think that it speaks a lot to my own personal growth over the last few months, because I know, and I'm sure if you've been listening to the show for a while now, you've heard both Stacey and myself share about how looking into the future was very anxiety inducing because of all the unknowns. And I think that now I'm starting to be able to feel comfortable looking at aspects of my future and going in that direction and allowing to kind of get back into some kind of flow and feel more comfortable doing that. And that explanation took a lot longer than I anticipated, so I'm not going to share the second question today. Maybe I'll share that for another episode because I'm eager to hear what question Michael has been sitting with. So I'm going to pass it over to Michael.
First of all, I think it's really fun to have the tables turned and have the questions coming my way for a change. So thank you for that bit of a twist. And this feels really dear to my heart as well, because this is, I had a question jump right out at me when you asked, and it's actually quite similar to your questions. What brings me joy, and where are you going? So my question in the morning is, where do I want to put my energy today? or where is my energy meant to go today? I feel really blessed to be in a place of really deep creative and business inspiration. And with that, there are both ideas springing from my imagination and my meditations and from all over the place, but also a lot of opportunities coming our direction as well. And I think it's new. It hasn't been like this fortuitous in I'm counting my blessings, but also asking myself on a daily basis of all the things that I could be putting my energy towards. What's the one thing I should really focus on today? And that's kind of been one of my grounding elements. And I feel like it's a combination of the thing that's gonna get me toward where I'm going the most, and reminding myself to, because again, this is new, to focus on what's gonna bring me the most joy. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because I think that all of us are in this space where you only have so much energy nowadays, only so much time, energy, and it's kind of getting siphoned off in a lot of different directions. And that question of like, how do you distill it down to the essence of, where your energy should go in a given day, I think is a great question to ask.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too. I think, especially since I think we might be even more aware of how we're using our energy during these times, because we're having a lot more moments of quiet and more moments of self-reflection, and there is so much going on within the world that it can be exhausting even when you're not really doing a lot. And that's when you have that opportunity to be like, okay, where am I putting my energy? Where is it going that is making me feel this way? Or on the opposite side of that, when you're feeling great, like, where are you putting your energy towards that's making you feel great? Because that's just as important to know as, when you're not feeling good, where your energy is going, because you want to obviously continue to put your energy towards the things that make you feel good or that don't make you feel exhausted.
Yeah, and just that really inspires like one build for me, and it's that I've really come to expect the surprises these days. They're a bit more frequent than perhaps in the past. And I guess when we get into my story, I mean, this is at this point been since 2019 that I've been just like seeing insane shifts in the life around me. So it just feels way more important to try to see where my tank is and hopefully have it as full as possible, because at any moment a surprise can be coming from family or business or something, and the more full I am with energy, is the more equipped I am to show up for the people that need me in those moments.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So, what I would love to do now is share the song lyrics that Michael sent over to us. So, I am going to do a quick screen share so you can pull that up. Give my computer a moment. There we go. All right. So, the lyrics are: time moves slow when you're all alone, and the time moves slow when you're out on your own. And the time moves slow when you're missing a friend. And the time moves slow when you came to the end. And it's by Bad, Bad, Not Good. So, Michael, can you share with us what about these lyrics really resonated with you and why you wanted to share them with us today?
Yeah, of course. So for starters, I think I sort of misread the question at first, and I just like went with the song that was inspiring me the most, um, and it's this song called "Time Moves Slow," and I had to sort of revisit the lyrics and kind of pull something that resonated with me. But the song played on repeat while I'd made a choice um, to head out on an adventure, a personal growth adventure that started in November on the 21st in New York City and ended in Central Florida on March 13th, the day that the lockdown started. But I spent the better part of 5 months traveling around the country, meeting up with old friends, family, strangers, asking people to play actually curious with me, and frankly, healing from a few consecutive traumas in 2019. I lost 2 of my older brothers within 3 months of one another. And it was on the road by myself, just kind of like having the space and time to take all these things in that, different realizations would come my way. Like I realized I'd taken several long road trips with my brothers, and I didn't realize that until maybe like a week and a half, 2 weeks into the trips on a road by myself with like a bit of gravel on the road shaking my body, that like sort of brought the emotion to the surface, that I realized that I was connecting with Darren and Chris through this choice, through this subconscious choice. So, I mean, the song would come on often, and it still does when I'm running, sometimes when I'm working, and each time it comes on, it reminds me similarly of like some of the points that we all brought up in response to your prompt, which is a reminder that to slow down. At least for me, these lyrics remind me that you're going to have peaks and you're going to have valleys, and they're almost like counterbalancing. And during those times, the world tends to feel like it's speeding up, and it's those times when I need to remind myself that I have permission. I can give myself permission to slow way down. That's where my learning happens. And I think that's, the best way to sort of work your way through difficult situations is to just kind of slow down and revisit your instincts.
Thank you, Michael, for sharing that. I know from my own experiences of grief that time also moves much differently when you're grieving, and particularly to have back-to-back grief in that way. I mean, it must have just been a strange and surreal time to kind of move through. So for you to take that time on the road and experience that and, reconnect with your brothers that way, I think is incredible. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for opening up and sharing all of that with us. And yeah, I think the words in the song too, I think everybody can relate to right now. And everything that you were saying too, Michael, about just giving yourself that permission to experience time how you need to, and experiencing it and allowing yourself to slow down no matter how the world feels around you. I think that that's permission that we all really need to receive at all different stages within our lives, for sure. Okay, so I guess what I would love to do now is to formally introduce Michael. So I have the pleasure of doing that today. So Michael Tennant is the founder and CEO. He is an award-winning media, advertising, and nonprofit veteran for companies like MTV, Vice, Media, Coca-Cola, and more. In 2018, his boutique consultancy Curiosity Lab created the card game Actually Curious with the goal of helping fight divisiveness in the country. In the wake of COVID-19 and the rise of Black Lives Matter, the game is taking off as a tool to help spread empathy and to create a safe space for the difficult conversation we all need and want to be having these days. Early in his career, Michael struggled to find advocates and mentors that looked like him and cared to guide him during those early days. It is this lack of representation and mentorship that inspires his commitment, changing important narrative and bringing opportunities to communities of color. So, Michael, thank you again so very much for being on today. And I know that Stacey and I are both really looking forward to actually getting to participate in your game. So, would you mind sharing, the rules with our audience and just explaining a bit more about it?
Yeah, my pleasure. And once again, thank you so much for the platform to get to share this with your audience. So as you introduced to the audience, Actually Curious was created with the altruistic mission of helping fight divisiveness in this country. Everything about it is essentially a Trojan horse to help people arrive at their own biases. The design on it, this is a gender neutral figure and the eyes open up progressively. There are 4 different faces, and inside the deck, there are 4 different colors. Each color represents a different level of intimacy. So blue, which is the lightest level in this deck, anyhow, the eyes are closed. So these are questions that should be easy to ask a stranger and kind of help you warm up. I guess we'll find out. Foreshadowing. And then each level, the eyes open up a little bit more until you get to the pink cards where the eyes are wide open, and these are the most intimate. So the game, it's based on the science and psychology of trust building and emotional connection. We spoke to psychologists that consult for like Israel and Palestine on crisis mitigation. The same psychologist's work was referenced in a New York Times article called The 36 Questions That Lead to Love, which went viral. Maybe some of your readers might have read it, I bet. And so we spoke to also Mandy Padron, who wrote that article as well, and some, casted a intergenerational and diverse panel of people to help bring these questions to life. And the goal is all the questions are non-politically leaning and really, are meant to help you create a safe space to discuss issues that really matter right now. Last holiday season, we released the Happy Hour edition. The Happy Hour edition is also, it's actually all one color, 52 questions. And the brief for this deck is that every question should bring about a feeling of happiness. And this was another breakthrough that happened on the road, is I realized that, after I lost my brother Chris, I had to do a ton of self-work on letting go, on recognizing negative narratives, on just kind of diving into some of the traumas that exist in my family. And out of that, I really leaned into a gratitude practice. And all of these tools of positivity, literally non-chemical ways that we can boost our happiness, sort of ended up being subconsciously the stimulus, the inspiration behind the questions that go into this step. So together, this is lighter than any of the questions in what's now called the Curiosity Edition, and acts as like a nice warm-up, or you could play it alone, because some of the Curiosity Edition questions, depending on the setting, you might not want to get into the depth of conversation that it offers. But I will say it like outsells 2-to-1 the Happy Hour edition easily. So I mean, my thought for today was, instead of like continuing to bang on about the game, maybe we could show also within the context of how you've framed the episode, and that quote, and just staying on theme, and just like getting creative together, that perhaps we could play a game I'll explain the rules. So the rules are basically, it's based off of the same, like similar mechanic to popular party games that sometimes are a lot more, I guess, mean-spirited in nature. That was one of our, like Cards Against Humanity, for example. We wanted to create a game that for a person like me who would play that game and all of a sudden find myself looking around the room trying to make sense of why this was so fun for everyone, but not for me. I wanted to create an alternative to that. So some of the similar kind of mechanics, but the way the game works is in the rules is one person would pull the card and ask the question to the rest of the group. Everyone would answer, and then the person who's listening curiously would then award the card to the answer they felt the most connected to. We're gonna do a slight derivation though, which really focuses, because I'm the game master now. I just took that over, even though it's your show. And so what I would love to do is for us to, what we'll do is I'll pull a question and we'll each take turns first, slowing down, taking like one deep breath and sharing how that question makes us feel. I'll model first. We'll share if we feel any sensations in our body and then what emotions we associate with that feeling. And then we'll each take turns answering the question. And then after that, we'll each just real quick, like say who we thought, since it's who we feel most connected to, whose answer. And since it's three of us, there should always be a winner, I think. That person will then select the next color. So you can either stay in the color we were in or go up to the next color. But we can't go up a color till we've done one in the previous pile.
Oh, that's smart. I like that little
Okay,
addition.
does that make sense?
Yeah, no, everything makes sense. And I mean, Stacey and I love talking about our feelings, especially on the show. So
we do.
I find myself, I am like radiating with excitement about playing this game, Michael. Like I've been looking forward to it since I came across you on social media, and then hearing you describe the rules of the game, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait. I don't know if that's a normal reaction for people to be like, I can't wait to talk about feelings, but that's me.
Oh, I love it. And I'll share one thing for your audience, because I don't often get to give all of this backstory, but what we're basically doing is zeroing in on two types of empathy. So cognitive empathy is something that a lot of people can relate to. It's the ability that if someone says, hey, I'm feeling this way, to make an intellectual connection to, okay, that's what happiness is, or that's what sadness is. People who are called empaths or self-identify as empaths have like a heightened ability in somatic empathy, and that is the ability to literally almost feel what the other person is feeling. So as we kind of take this practice of slowing down first and isolating and talking about how the question makes us feel, it gives us almost two ways of like strengthening these muscles of empathy. We'll answer the questions and hear the varying different perspectives and views of the world that we share right here on this call, but we'll also get to like put in practice like slowing down and isolating, like recognizing what feeling looks like in the body. Cool. All right, let's go. You ready, Stacey?
I am ready. I'm a little nervous, but ready.
Okay, all right. So first I'm going to read the question and then share how it makes me feel. All right. In the shower, do you wash your legs? All right. Actually, okay, so this question, I'm feeling a little bit of like chills up the back of my head and a little bit of sweatiness underneath my armpits. And the reason is that this is one of the more like light and funny questions, and it's just in this deck, and I wasn't expecting to pull it as the first question. So, but yeah, I feel playful as well, and just like joyful that it is the first question.
I feel, well, first of all, I laughed like a very, like a guffaw over here because, and then I felt a little sweaty too, like, because I think the question's great. It makes, and is fun. And then I'm like, oh, are people going to judge me if I say I don't wash my legs? So that's how I felt.
I laughed as well. I felt like, I felt joy like in my chest and like my heart space, like some like tingling, but it was not not like pressure. It just felt like, I don't know, like bubbles, I guess, like in my chest, joyful bubbles. And yeah, and honestly, I also laughed because I didn't realize that not washing your legs in the shower was a thing until I watched like some TV show a few years ago. And I was like, wait, hold up. People don't wash their legs? Like what? Okay. So anyway, I hope I did that right. But go ahead, Mike.
Wait, do you want to just give us your answer? We just go the other way?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do wash my legs because I didn't know not washing your legs was an option. And when I learned that it was an option, it was already too late. I was like 30 something. So I'm not going to like stop washing my legs now, I guess.
Does that make me next? I wash my legs most of the time, but I have to admit, there's some times where I think I just forget to wash my legs. I don't even know how or why, but that's the reality. And then recently, I threw out my back and I couldn't wash my legs at all. So it was I'd like lean over to wash my legs and be like, shit. And like I couldn't do it at all. And then you realize like, oh yeah, it's important to wash your legs.
And I guess that leaves me. So I've never had to answer this in public, and I think I'm about to get my black card revoked in the way I answer this. But yeah, if I'm being really honest, which this is about being honest and vulnerable, I'm all about efficiency. And I would say I'm kind of like maybe like 60-40 yes, washing the legs. Definitely, if I'm going on a run with my legs exposed, then yes, I'll wash them. Otherwise, I think, you know, I kind of focus on the most important bits, and then let the rest do its thing. So, okay, so basically, now that I'm completely embarrassed, and we'll have to maybe justify that in a article about leg washing. Let's vote. So whenever you've kind of like committed to whose answer you felt most connected to, maybe just like put your hand up. All right, let's hear it.
Susan's answer, because the fact that she said, well, I connect most to you, Michael, in terms of the actual answer, but in terms of like the funnest answer would be Susan, because of the fact that she didn't know that not washing her legs was an option. And so there she is. She's washed her legs for 30 plus years. I thought that was great.
Well, I'm just going to jump in and say that I also really resonated with that line. As a branding person, I thought that I didn't know not washing your legs was an option is the quotable moment of this question session. So I'm also going with Susan.
Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. I'm honored. Yeah, I'm answering honestly because that was literally like what I thought of when I was watching like that show. I don't know. I was like, what? It's a choice? I don't know. But thank you. Stacey, I resonated, I think, with yours the most. Especially when you're talking about throwing out your back and like not being able to wash your legs. and being like, oh shit, now that's an important thing that I need to do, or I guess I should be doing. I don't know. That just really made me giggle. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
Well, Susan, you now have the honor of selecting the next card. Your choices are to have us stay in the happy hour edition or to go up to blue.
Ooh. Let's keep going. Let's do blue. I'm wearing blue. Michael's wearing blue. Stacey, is there blue in your top?
It is. My top is blue. Yeah, and I have a blue dress.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a blue kind of day, I guess.
It's the blue human group. Okay, cheesy dad joke. All right, so how about this time you lead us off with the sharing of the feeling from the question.
Okay,
and
yeah, that sounds perfect.
The question is, when do you feel out of place?
And that was like a literal gut punch to my solar plexus. Felt that one. That's where, yep, felt that in my solar plexus, in my gut. It was not a joyful feeling.
I would say the same. Definitely not a joyful feeling. Definitely like a gut or like middle of the chest, like, oh, yeah. And on my face, and I made that face, like, oh, when I heard the question. Yeah, it's a deep question.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that I felt like kind of like a blank feeling, like a numbness feeling. Yeah. And when do I feel out of place? I can't think of like a really specific situation. I can only I can picture the situation, but I can't give it like, hey, it's a situation where I'm trying to make friends, but it seems as though everyone else is already friends and not that interested in making friends with the new person. And and I'd say the feeling I often feel is this sort of like numbness, this like blankness, this searching for answers, or trying to like not display what I'm feeling, but like trying to like regulate and get to just how I'm gonna make it through this moment with confidence and with my integrity.
My next. The question is, when do you feel out of place? Yes. And my immediate, which probably explained my face of like, ugh, my immediate response was all the time. That was my immediate response. In the sense of kind of what you're saying, Michael, but on a bigger level of, or an all the time level of like, sort of always feeling like I'm floating a bit, like I'm not quite landing with maybe one community or another, or one set of friends or another, or one place in my life or another. And I don't know, yeah, being on that overall, I think, trajectory of just, I was thinking a lot about this even earlier today, of just different parts of my life, the confluence of different parts of my life that feel all over the place, especially the ones dealing with a lot of grief and trauma, and trying to meld those into my current reality. So my immediate reaction was all the time, which surprised me that that's what I felt, and trying to actually process that reaction.
My reaction, I don't know if you can hear, my cat is literally outside my door meowing right now. So if you hear something that sounds like a child, it's not, it's my cat, who you can always rely on to affect a moment. But anyway, for me, it's, and I just experienced this like recently with people close to me, and it's being in a group of people where they're only focused on the negative in their lives or in the situation. And it's more than that though. It's like getting the people that get the enjoyment out of talking about or focusing on the negative. And being in those groups of people. I think that's where I feel out of place, because it's something that I really try to avoid, not avoid the negative or avoid acknowledging the negative, but experiencing like the negative or the hard things and breaking them down, or looking at the like how you can grow or learn from it, rather than just kind of like sitting in it and stewing in it. Yeah.
Woo! We went for it. All right. I'll go first. Susan, I really resonated with what you were sharing because I at this point, it kind of goes back to also that energy comment earlier on. Really, it actually takes my energy really quickly if I'm in extended conversations or groups that are kind of like really feeding into negativity. But it doesn't make me feel out of place, because I can still really relate to like not that long ago being in a very similar place. And I just keep trying to find the ways to help illuminate to people what negative narrative and being in a sort of toxic spiral looks like. So it doesn't make me feel out of place because I can relate to it. Stacey, when you were sharing, I just literally felt my eyes welling, and I just felt literally I could put myself in the shoes of feeling out of place everywhere, and it's just so sad. Is when I hear more and more stories and get to hear people opening up and being vulnerable, it's just so common that it just it makes me sad. So Stacey, you get my vote.
I get the sad vote for the day, I guess. Susan, though, in terms of what I resonate with would be Susan, because what you said reminded me a lot of my mother. Like that's the environment I grew up in, that very toxic, everything was negative 100% of the time, and she did nothing to change it. And in many ways couldn't. She wasn't capable of it, sort of in this life anyway. Maybe in the next one if we're all moving into better energy realms. But yeah, so when I find I'm in that space of a lot of just very, very hyper negative conversation with no hope embedded in it at all, or no way of like, oh, how can we actually turn this corner? How can we make steps forward? I similarly feel like, oh, get me out of here. I can't do it, it's just too reminiscent of childhood.
Yeah, I think when you have that connection with family, I think that's where my feeling of out of place, where I make that connection of feeling out of place, because it's family. It's where you're supposed to fit in, supposed to belong. So yeah, I hear you, Stacey. Michael, I definitely have felt I definitely resonated with both of your responses, with Stacey and Michael's. Michael's, I think I can really relate to more recently, and feeling just when you go into that place and you're going to try to fit in or try to socialize or something, and everybody else is off doing their thing, you're like, for as much of a like social person as I am with my job, my business, when I'm just showing up like as myself, like just as Susan, I'm definitely not as extroverted. And I think that's where I get real self-conscious about making friends, or I just kind of shut down, I think, where I'm like, okay, like I'll meet people, I won't meet people, whatever. And Stacey, when you were sharing, saying that you feel out of place all the time, like I felt like my heart sank because I care for you. I love you so much. So to hear you respond that way, like broke my heart, because I'm like, how people love you. I love you. So it made my heart sad to hear you say that, but I hope that, it's something that can change, something that, you can, I don't know, something that can feel better about. So I don't know. I think, Michael, I think you had my vote.
And don't worry about me, people. That's what this game's all about. Yeah. No, it's just a time.
Too late. Already worrying about you.
I'm in a transition phase. It's the realm of transition that I'm in. That's all.
Oh, wow. Well, actually, I'm going to do one quick rule change, and then I think this will also help speed it up so that we can get to some more cards. So let's use this as the last kind of like moment of like, just like kind of emotional and physical check-in. I feel called to, just because I just really, I've felt like I've been on a roller coaster with you guys here so far, starting off from that really joyful moment, and just like, I can tell that we're in I can just like, I feel like warm in my chest, but like cool in my extremities. And I just feel connected to you guys. Yeah. Would you mind sharing how you're feeling at this moment in the game?
Yeah, I would say connected as well. And it's amazing that the cards, and we've only done a couple questions, allowed us to sort of dive so deep very quickly, and in a way where we built trust. Because while Susan and I are both very open people, or all of us are open people, open book type of people, I think in certain ways, it's often not easy to share answers to some of these things, aside from maybe the leg, like washing one. And even that, it's not that easy. So I feel very connected and feel like, feel a level of trust to be able to say what I said, and then to, for all of us to be able to do that here, I think is really profound.
Yeah, I feel connected as well. I feel like we're all holding space for each other in a very supportive, non-judgmental way. So I feel very safe and very cared for right now. So I feel very grounded. Feel very like tapped in also.
Okay. So we're in the second half of the game. And I'm gonna actually make one more rule change, and it's just so that we can get the questions in the format. So we're gonna go to the traditional gameplay. And since I've won, I'm gonna go up. I always go up. I'm gonna go up to green, and then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna hold my answer. So the person who selects the color, they just listen, and then everyone else will respond, and then the person who selected the color, they'll select the winner. Is that cool? That'll cut like a third of the time. Well, plus without the thematic check-in, it'll cut a lot of time. All right, cool. So the question is, ladies, what cultural or moral values do you hold in high regard, and why? And that's the green question, and you just keep it under a minute and a half. What cultural or moral values do you hold in high regard and why?
Susan, you going first or me? There's a lot to say here. Me. Oh man. I feel like it's sort of a laundry list that I want to say, and perhaps Susan's thinking the same thing. Cultural and moral standards. It's everything from the cultural aspect of inclusivity, so accepting people for who they are and whoever they want to love and whatever they look like and wherever, inclusivity and inviting people into every aspect of life and living a good life and high quality of life, regardless of any background that they may have. I think honesty, and by honesty, I mean the element of kind of what we're doing here in this game of, I have very little tolerance for tiptoeing around issues or not talking about issues, especially because I grew up in a household with mental illness and with alcoholism and lots of traumas that you just don't talk about, right? Because somehow you're not supposed to, but then that trauma is passed on through the generations if you don't. So for better or worse, I'm kind of a very open book, and I think it's just vital and really important that we talk about emotions and we talk about the darker stuff and the lighter stuff and hold the space for all of that. So that's kind of a cultural thing that I really value. Morally, what else would I say that I value most? Thinking about future generations in our decision making, like whether that be what we eat or other things we buy, or whether it's how we raise our children to, treat other people. I think that it's just so important. And when people act selfishly, and I don't know where I'm at with the minute and a half, by the way, so you just gotta cut me off. It's kind of like, when people act selfishly or don't think ahead beyond their own very short life on this planet, I have no tolerance for that either. I've worked very hard in my life, and I think I will always until I die, of like trying to fight for the good fight and the good causes, because I think it's just vital. I also believe culturally in supporting small. Am I done? Okay, I'm done. So support the small people, small businesses, small artisans, small matters. Anyway, I'll stop there. You're up, Susan.
Yeah, everything Stacey said. I feel like that kid in class. That's like, yes, what she said. Done. No, I do agree with everything that Stacey was sharing. And I think inclusivity is huge. I know that whenever I talk about parenting and raising my little guy, what it always comes back to is I want to make sure that I help raise him into being an inclusive, loving, supportive human. And I know that Stacey went into a lot more detail about that, and I truly do echo what she was saying. But yeah, I think that really just having an inclusive approach with my own life, but then also making sure that I'm doing my part, whether it's with my son or with other people, to just make sure that they are bringing in that kind of love and support for everyone. Yeah.
Amazing, guys. Well done. I'm going to award the card to Stacey, although I was going to dock you some points for the length of the answer. You just hit on so many things that resonate with me. Both of you. I think the inclusivity aspect, it's almost just like, it doesn't even make sense to me, like why we live in such a like a scarcity oriented world. It just seems like common sense that like universal love is the way, but also the points you made, and I think it touched on the last question a little bit. I think we hit on some of these points, but the points you made about honesty and letting go, I'd say like playing this game and seeing, like, when I've been on the road and I've seen like people share something that they didn't even know that they needed to share, and all of us, we can almost like all see goosebumps on each other's arms and we're perfect strangers. I think that conversation and sharing is so healing. It's pretty much like kind of underrepresented in many of our families. Just kind of like we have these ways of like having these like toxic ways of dealing with generations and generations of trauma. So and maybe that plays into the scarcity. I mean, that we all feel. So I don't know. You hit on a lot of points. I feel like we can go into this. We can unpack a lot of it as well. Sake of time, I'm going with Stacey. Boom. Your choice. We're going. You can go magenta, blue, green, or yellow, and then we have pink as well, but we haven't unlocked that yet. I hope we can do that. Do we have enough time, you think?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Is yellow deeper? I'm inclined for either magenta or yellow because that's the colors that are resonating with me right now, but I don't know which one's deeper than
yellow. Okay, so the magenta is the lightest. That's happy hour deck. So yellow is the next one up. Or we can.
I'm kind of inclined to magenta it up for a moment.
You want to go back down to happy hour?
I think so for the moment. Can I do that? Is that going to disappoint you?
No.
And then we can jump deep again. I've gotten real deep, so I'm trying to like doggy paddle for a little bit here.
And remember, you're not going to answer this. This is going to be me and Susan.
Oh, right. Oh, well then, maybe we go yellow.
Okay.
I see how it is.
There, Susan? You see what I did there? Okay. All right. I see what you did there, Stacey Kennedy. Okay. So the question you selected for Susan and myself are, how do you measure one's potential? Are aptitude tests effective? I'll go first. Usually the person who goes second has a better chance. And since this is my game, I'll give you the better chance. So,
I just also want to like throw in there that for the people who are watching the recording, obviously couldn't see my reaction, but I like literally threw my hands in the air like, what the fuck? Like, come on, Stacey. Just kidding. I'm sorry, Michael, go ahead. So potential.
Yeah, I mean, this is more of a sort of intellectually style question. How do you measure one's potential or aptitude test effective? Yeah, I guess for me as a business owner and a boss and not yet a parent, but an uncle, and also like pretty like sort of both reflectively critical, and I'd say to me the biggest thing I personally look for around potential is effort and passion, and I mean, this question, I think, okay, but then the aptitude tests are aptitude tests effective? No. I mean, people get trained to take tests. School systems sometimes train people to take tests disproportionately. So, I mean, I'm always just trying to think of like how to identify like raw talent, and for me, I'm always looking for that sort of like passion and effort elements, or at least the markers of it, because also there are conditions that can damper one's ability to bring that energy in a way. And yeah, this is a hard one for me. So I'm going to say it's a really, really difficult question, but I think the ways that we've traditionally measured potential need to be revisited and sort of broken and rebuilt. That's my answer.
I think that to what really determines potential, at least from what's coming to me in answering this question now, is drive and creativity, as well as the ability to adapt. Because I think that if you're driven, if you're creative, if you can adapt, then you can really work through any kind of situation, or you can succeed and push through and survive anything that's really thrown at you. Aptitude tests, Michael, we were saying about aptitude tests. I did not do well on standardized tests in school. I was also a teacher for 7 years and saw just how useless they are. So I think that markers for success and potential absolutely need to be changed too. I definitely agree with you on that.
I definitely resonate with everything you've both said around it. The resilience factor, and also certainly passion and effort. And I think, Michael, for this one, I definitely resonated the most with your answer in the sense that, well, I mean, you both said aptitude tests, and I completely agree. Forget about that nonsense. But passion and effort, I think there's a lot of ways that kids especially can show those two qualities throughout their lives, even if they're going through something difficult, or even if they're no matter their background or ability to succeed or not on an aptitude test, they could have those two qualities in spades. And there's a lot to be said for those qualities because they can cultivate into greatness, and its potential really lies with those two things, I think. In addition to needing to adapt, as you said, Susan, no matter what life throws at you. So I think, Michael, you get the baton.
Careful what you do, because since I win, well, you win. Wait, I win the card. It's weird awarding myself a card, but so it shall be. Thank you, by the way. And I'm gonna take us up to pink. So what you just did is you just won yourself a really difficult question.
Oh shit!
We're about to get into the tea.
Yes.
Okay. Oh man, here we go. Describe one time. All right, this is really going to ask some vulnerability on this card. Describe one time you judged someone based on a perceived difference. Eyes wide open.
Okay, I'll go. I used to judge, or I did judge someone about their knowledge about style, because of the size and shape of their body. And I have since taken a lot of time to make the effort to rework the way that I look at other bodies that are different than mine, or even my own body, and acknowledge the fact that the way that I look or was looking at other bodies was from my own insecurities, my own issues with my size, and being fearful about how my body changed. But at that particular time, I had associations in my brain about what looked good in terms of style could only be associated with someone whose body looked a certain way. And of course, now I know that that couldn't be further from the truth. It's all irrelevant, but it's something that I made a conscious effort to educate myself on and really rewire my brain around too.
So I think the thing that popped into mind for me that would be particularly vulnerable to say, or open, honest, would be a number of years ago when I first met a transgender person. And I, both at that time, didn't have the language nor an understanding of what transgender was, or, you know, it wasn't even remotely in my lexicon or understanding at all. And I remember meeting him and think like I just was sort of confused. And I remember thinking like, I was like, my body was trying to sense what was going on and my brain was trying to catch up with my body. And I was conversing with him and I wouldn't say it was judgment per se. Judgment is not quite the right word, but it gets at what we're talking about here, which is just like a perception of maybe who I thought this person was or what gender I thought this person should be or was, and versus what, you know, the person was telling me. And that moment stands out for me a lot when I think about judgments or perceptions we might have of people, because as open of a person as I am and accepting, in that moment, I was, again, kind of just almost confused more than anything. And similar to Susan's answer, you know, it made me think more deeply about why am I even confused at all here, you know, and how do I feel about my gender, about my sexuality? What is making me uncomfortable here? In this way, because I would say it was confusion and a little bit of discomfort of it just threw me completely for a loop because I had never met a transgender person before, and I don't know. That's the moment that comes to mind for me, and you know, since that point in time, this person and this person's wife are good friends of mine, but you know, at that moment, it was the first time I was meeting him. And it was just, again, that very like visceral, like, oh shit, I'm kind of like uncomfortable in this situation. Why am I even uncomfortable? What does that even mean? Or why is that coming up in me? So anyway, that's what I wanted to lift up, was that moment.
I'm just blown away, guys. Thank you for going there. I think this might be one of, in my eyes, probably one of the most confronting questions to answer publicly on camera. But I'm really happy that we landed on it, because it's almost like it's the question that was the brief for this game, which was, can we get people to be a little more vulnerable with acknowledging their biases? So just thank you. I think the more we do that is the more we can create situations where we can come together in love, but also be able to sit in discomfort, is where we actually find growth and progress and solutions. I resonated with both of your guys' answers, and it's only in recognizing that I have those biases that I can start to deconstruct them and then start to be a voice in my community around them. So you're not alone. And I will award this card to Stacey. Thank you both for your vulnerability.
Well, thank you for leading us through this. These cards are amazing. I mean, we went through what, 5, I guess?
5, yeah. One of each.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's amazing. And yeah, definitely with the last question, but a couple of them, that level of discomfort, but that's exactly what you're saying, getting at that discomfort to kind of sit with it, you know, sit with it, talk about it, create conversation around it. I think it's really powerful. And to have a whole deck of these cards that you can you know, you can lead conversations with people closest with you and with strangers is just a real gift. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Michael, I had a question for you about the game and your experience with it. Do you ever have you ever had an experience where people refuse to answer questions, or they like shut down, or is it something that people kind of enter the game being willing to just dive in completely?
It's actually a rule that I sometimes forget to say, but definitely in like a larger group. The format that we did towards the end is usually good for up to 7 people, or depending on your time and your context, you might go. But yeah, I usually offer that, you know, if you want to refrain from answering the question, then that's totally your choice. But I've seen a range of situations. That's partially why we made the happy hour edition. Is, you know, we started to realize, okay, we made this as, it's like a party game, and we're trying to make it a party game, but it's also almost like more like a tool and falls into the therapy realm. And I've been at a party with this and had like a full-on argument break out, and I was like, whoa, okay. And then I learned that, like, okay, you don't have people enter the game halfway through and jump in at the higher cards, and they're not like, you know, they're not a part of the safe container. So yeah, people do refrain, and also, you know, if you know, you may want to get into deeper topics, but let's say you're in a very conservative work environment, you want to use it as a tool, and you don't want to talk about suicide, perhaps. Then you might pull some of the cards that you don't want to get in. But I really do encourage people to try to like find that edge, and or find the point just past the edge, if you will.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's a good point, Michael, about trust, right? Of like, don't jump in the middle of the game. You have to build trust and build up connections between people before you dive too deep. I think that's important as it relates to the ability to have difficult conversations, right? I mean, you have to have a foundation of trust and some sense of knowing, which, you know, can start with cleaning your legs or not, and then jump into like the really, you know, difficult stuff.
Yeah, I think that too, with the rule of not being able to skip, you know, a level of vulnerability, you have to unlock them in order to get to those more, you know, eyes open, more intense questions. I think that's also a really smart rule that just helps to facilitate that safe space, that safe container that is so clearly established. So as someone who is now participating in the game on a smaller scale, I greatly appreciate that too. Because I think, I don't know, when you first said that rule, I have like an inner like defiant part to me. I'm a Sagittarius moon and rising, so I'm like, why not? No way. But obviously now, after having gone through the game, I greatly appreciate that. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about, I know you have some workbooks or like workshop pieces people can get to on your website, and then also tell us a little bit more about where we can find the cards and buy them and tap into all the resources.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we just played a card game. But really what we're trying to do is build a movement around spreading empathy. The card game is one piece. The content that we produce and we publish on our social media, which our main channel is Instagram, so @actuallycurious. You can follow us there, but we're constantly publishing news and content and different tools that can help you give voice to wanting to spread empathy as well, and wanting to kind of support the movement for Black Lives Matter, but also for connection in these difficult times. To extend that movement, we're not only producing content on a daily basis, but we have also developed workshops, which we're bringing into corporate environments as well. We're just so blessed that we've been getting booked to do them in Zoom workshops, or even design them within larger organizations. But we want to make this as open source as possible. So what we've done is we've made a kind of general public friendly values workshop and empathy building workshop, which you can find on actuallycurious.com/workshop. You have to give us your email address, and then we send you a link, and then you can download them. You know, a little quid pro quo there. And then I just really hope you all will follow us and stay tuned. We have some really exciting news coming out over the coming months, and we just are just like constantly looking for the next story beat that helps put more momentum around this movement for empathy, and getting platforms like yours here in the Creative Pause. You are ambassadors. You're part of this movement. You're on the front line, and your community. You all are on the front line as well of this movement to spread empathy. Another, just I guess like couple of things. So you said where to get the game. If you go to our Instagram and you go into the link in bio, you'll see we also have a free PDF with 18 questions, a sampling of both decks. So if for some reason, if you can't afford, or you don't have it now, or you want to give it a try, we've gone ahead and made it available. It's also translated in 7 additional languages, which was something that we did at the beginning of COVID, just to get it out and really invest in our values. But also, it's a really lovely gift and personal tool to have, and you can find that on actuallycurious.com. It's also available on Amazon, but Amazon doesn't need more business from us, so actuallycurious.com is probably the way to go. But honestly, just thank you for the attention and the time, and I don't know, go grab tiles from the Instagram, the free PDF, whatever. Just give it a try, because what we're meaning to do is to help people develop 3 key skills, which is having a better sense and more tools for how to create a safe space for these difficult conversations, strengthening your ability to listen to your own emotions as well as listen to other people with curiosity, not to project your own emotions onto what you're hearing, and ultimately to recognize our own biases. And it's a lifelong journey, but there's no real endpoint. So let's start. And that's what I've got. Thank you.
Loved that so much, Michael. And we will include the links to everything that Michael mentioned on the website, the creativepauseproject.com. So in the show notes, whether it's in the podcast, on the YouTube channel, on the website, we will definitely have all of the links to all of the wonderful things that Michael shared, and the game, of course, and the free PDF, everything.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you everybody for being with us here today. I hope that you'll take the time to dig deep on some of these questions with you and those that you love, and even some strangers that you're 6 feet apart from right now. Engage them in a conversation. So thank you so much. And we always end our episode with a quote from a Mary Oliver poem, which is, "What will you do with your one wild and precious life?" So thank you all for being here, and we will see you on the next episode. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.